Greetings, what's up and welcome one and all. The sun is setting and the magpie is casting right here, right now. The funk is soul brother. Spawning in the north, we have the USSR forces of returning player. It is Redbeard. And spawning in the south, we have the Overcommand West forces of 0.0, who I might just call 0 or 0 or something like that. The map today is going to be Langreskya. This is a map from Company of Heroes 1, which has been remade and ported into Company of Heroes 2. And a good map it is too. Very small in size, it's a sort of close and bloody battle, you're never far away from your opponent. Plenty of opportunity for sneaky flanking though. We've got a few line of sight blockers which divide the map into kind of a few different zones. There's this kind of left zone here segregated by this hedge here. There's a sort of villagey, built up zone here with a little well and a few buildings. Then on the right there's a more sort of open fields, a couple of buildings in this location. These two very strong for machine guns actually. If you can get an MG42 or a Maxim into one of these buildings early on, I suppose it would be an MG34 in the current circumstances, then yeah, that's pretty strong. Seems like this Schwerer Max Schlepper here going to be doing some remodeling here to the landscape, taking out a few fences. Zero has chosen his commander straight away. He's gone for the Fortifications Doctrine. That's going to give him the option for the MG34, which I think is actually very strong on this map, so that's cool. Heavy fortifications, field defences, Pack 43 emplacements, which could also be quite strong in this map if you build one sort of fairly central. And the zeroing artillery, which is a very potent munitions dump there. Just call in some damage onto your opponent's heads. Why not? So we've got good use of sandbags coming out from the Soviet player. He's laying a few of them in decent positions. Some Volks here in a building. We're going to get the festivities underway, and I imagine we'll see first blood very soon. Probably a conscript in this squad here. Gonna die. Am I right? Am I wrong? Oh my goodness, so far nobody has died. Come on. You call this a war? What's going on, guys? Where did you learn to shoot? Wow. I can't believe no conscripts have died. Okay, there we go. 2 Volks Grenadiers have died. Durr, first blood. There we go. Cool. Looks like we also got a scuffle around the central victory point here. A couple of engineers taking on some Volks. They're probably either going to have to relocate or be forced to fall back. Schwerer Max Schlepper is going to establish the battle group at HQ in a decent position. I quite like it here. Provides a nice straightforward fallback and healing location for your forces there. So yeah, when I play this map, my favourite spots are here if I'm feeling very defensive, or if I'm feeling super aggressive, I try and get it somewhere like here. Yeah, pretty much here if I'm feeling aggressive, which pretty much I am most games. For better or for worse. Storm Pioneers here, looks like they're going to come in and reinforce the fight. One squad of Volks already forced back, the other two here trading at close range with some conscripts, and that usually doesn't bode well, but they do outnumber them, and the conscripts are going to have to get the hell out of there, especially with the Volks in green cover. Let's take a look at the teching here for the Soviet player. We've got no buildings and no conscript upgrades, no medics either, so nothing coming out just yet. Saving his fuel for now is Redbeard, possibly waiting to see what his opponent Zero does and then going to adapt accordingly, which is fine. There are scuffles going on in mid of map at the moment. Volks here going to be taking on these conscripts. Here comes a Molotov, so Molotovs actually have been researched, my bad. And these Volks, Zero, a little slow to react there, going to lose a lot of HP on that squad, and 1 man. Maybe 2 actually, as these conscripts going to get into good range to pick off some retreating Volks Grenadiers here. Let's see if that is the case. Run, guys. No hands! He is down. So yeah, I imagine we'll see the forward fallback point researched on this building at some point. But until such time, let's just take a quick look at the unit selection here for both forces. Redbeard choosing to go conscript heavy. He's up to 4 squads of those guys. With the Molotov upgrade, I wouldn't be surprised to see him pick a commander who maybe could give them the PPS upgrade. Yeah, so here we go. Maybe he might go for advanced warfare. That's got the conscript assault package at 3 command points. Another Molotov here, going to be used for good effect, forcing back these Volks Grenadiers. But the conscripts, I believe, are standing in that fire a little bit. They're going to lose a little bit of health. And I believe that was a mine, blowing up 3 conscripts there. These Storm Pioneers going to trade for damage and then be forced back, so probably not going to achieve much. And with that, I'm just going to take a moment here to correct the tack, and we can have a look here. See that the Soviet forces kind of in control of the battlefield, but not only just. You know, they've got the upper hand, but not by much. Also, a flamer on those engineers coming back into the battle. Now, I believe we saw an incendiary grenade used here from the Volks. This fire seems to have been where the conscripts were. Sorry, I was on the tactical map when that happened. And anyway, that squad's going to be forced back. We've got a Rakettenwerfer here coming on out. That is coming out into a very bad position, though, and yeah, he wants to fall that back. I was going to say, not quite sure what it was doing there. Also, this is a very prophylactic Panzerwerfer. We don't even have the tier 1 building, so no danger of a scout car. So that is a blind Rakettenwerfer, which I think is not going to achieve very much for quite some time. That is the sound of another Molotov being thrown, used to flush out some Volksgrenadiers from this building. It's a very good, useful tool for that. I believe it only costs 15 munitions to throw. Yep, super cheap is the Molotov. So just getting them on out the building there. I don't think it does much building to the damage. Indeed, apparently none over time, so that's weird. You'd have thought it would do some. Flames for a wooden building, not too healthy. Anyway, crucially, coming on out to the left-hand fuel point here is Redbeard. He's going to decap that, and that's going to slow down the teching of the Overcommand forces, which of course already have a resource penalty applied to them. It's a doctrinal, it's a factional thing, I mean. So that's going to slow them down even more. The fuel at the moment, it's plus 10 for 0 to the 29 of Redbeard. So he really needs to push out. But if we look at the minimap, in fact, let's crack the tack. Look at this, a fantastic land grab coming out here. 4 points being taken simultaneously by the Axis player, and that should set him up in good stead. I wonder if we're going to see an MG34 called in. In fact, we already have, and it's making its way out onto the field. I like this. It feels a little late, because you can call them in from one command point, and if you get them into this building, or even better, this building, if you're spawning in the south, the coverage from those buildings is very dominant. It really lets you set up shop in the middle. And you know how I was saying I prefer to put down the aggressive battle group at HQ here and make pushes, but what I tend to do is get the aggressive battle group at HQ and get an MG34 into one of these buildings, if I go for this commander. Or, well, in fact, you know, I normally go for the Luftwaffe Ground Forces doctrine. Anyway, another Molotov coming out here. Seems like Zero is paying attention. He's Johnny on the spot with the micro there. Gets them out. This Rakettenwerfer, though, now exposed to a couple of units of conscript with no support. Oh, I take that back, sorry. Storm Pioneers flanking in from the right. Should be able to displace these conscripts. Oh my goodness, they're not trading very well, though. There we go. Now they should get them. There we go, yep. So that'll force them back. They may choose to get in this building and take some pot shots at these conscripts. Storm Pioneers, pardon me, not awful at long and mid-range, so, you know, they can do something. I'm not sure about the positioning on this MG34. Sending it out onto the left flank, unsupported. There's a flame squad here, and if that flame squad makes it into this building, which I think they will, you know, they could be issues. Okay, now the machine gun redeploys, and that is better. Schwerepanzer HQ coming out here at the 7-minute and 20 mark. So that's a reasonably fast Schwerepanzer HQ, especially given that he hasn't actually really controlled either fuel point for large swathes of this game. He's not going to have enough fuel to take advantage of any of the investments from that building. We're not going to see a Lux, for example, at least not for a couple of minutes. And we're unlikely to see a Panzer IV or a Panther for a lot longer. However, he will be able to purchase Obersoldaten, and when we look at the forces here for Redbeard, Obersoldaten would be pretty potent. So, yeah, smart play would be possibly to get Obersoldaten. Now, he hasn't really left himself much of a cushion insofar as manpower goes. So, you know, the building is completing right now around about the 8-minute mark, yet the earliest we could see Obersoldaten with no other manpower spending would be around about the 9.5-minute mark, if you look at the rates of income, rate of income resource. Manpower income, I mean. So yeah, anyway, MG34 in a decent position here. That's going to buy this Rakettenwerfer a bit of time, but again, this Rakettenwerfer finds itself in a dodgy position, and I'm not really sure why it keeps finding itself caught out like this. It hasn't really achieved anything this entire game, that Rakettenwerfer, so effectively a kind of a 280 manpower, I believe it's 280 manpower, let me just make sure on that one, 270 manpower, so effectively a 270 manpower handicap at the moment. However, it is still alive, and it may pay for itself later in the game, but we'll see. But certainly I think that Zero could have purchased that Rakettenwerfer later. I think he'd love to have another squad of Volks or even, you know, some Storm Pioneers or something like that on the field right now. But, you know, you can't always get everything you want. I hear sometimes if you try real hard, you can get what you need. So maybe he's going for that angle. Conscripts making a decent land grab on the right of the map, and Axis forces here making a decent land grab on the left. Crucially, going to tie up one of those fuel points, so that's really cool. Going to enable Zero to possibly get some armoured units out of his Schwerepanzer HQ a little earlier. So, whilst there's a scuffle going on just here outside the battalion HQ, I don't think this will lead to anything. These Volks here will be able to constantly reinforce. The Molotov here, bit of a miss there. So yeah, whilst this scuffle goes on, there's also some fights developing up here on the left flank. Just like to take a second right here to discuss the placement of this Schwerer battalion, sorry, the Schwerer Panzer HQ. I think it's in a decent position. It is covering one of the victory points, I think, only just. I think it is. You know, they've moved that victory point, haven't they? It used to be here. That is really cool. Okay, so Do take note, everybody, this victory point didn't used to be here, it used to be down here, which was ludicrously close to the south player's spawn, and part of what contributed to the heavy spawn bias on this map. So really glad to see they've moved that. Anyway, I imagine that this Ferropanzer HQ, yeah, it's sort of covering this point. It actually fires a little further than the dotted line usually, so sort of covering that point, not particularly. But it's locking down like 1, 2, 3... yeah, kind of 3.5-ish points, so in a decent position. Personally, it's very, very risky, but I prefer to try and deploy my Ferropanzer HQ on the north side of this line here, anywhere around here, because then it commands the middle of the map and it gives your opponent a target to try for, and then you can smash them down when they try for it. That's, you know, that's the Magpie strat. Now here comes a hand grenade, but Zero is paying attention and gets his Volksgrenadiers out of the way with nice timing. Here comes some conscripts, and let's see if we see a Molotov come out of these guys. Redbeard, kind of quite low on munitions, but no, it's an incendiary grenade from the Volks, and that will force the conscripts back. And with that, if we crack the tack, most of the Soviet forces... Actually, no, having said that, 3 squads of conscripts coming to the front. I was going to say, there might be a window here for Zero to grab some land, but I don't think that's going to be the case, actually. Cycling his squads quickly and efficiently is Redbeard, and that's gonna put him in good stead as we move here into the early mid-game now. Redbeard has chosen his commander. He's gone for the guard motor coordination tactics, one of the oldest commanders in the game, been in since release, and indeed one of the commanders which you know, everybody had from release in the game. So I believe that, you know, even since day one, everybody has had this commander. He's one of the 3 starting commanders for the USSR, always has been. Gives you access to the T-34-85, a very potent medium tank, one of my favourite tanks to use. It's very fluid, it's got decent utility against infantry and tanks. I really enjoy it. It's quite a liberating experience having one of those on your side, because you just point it at the enemy wherever you need it. S-Minefield has been deployed here, an interesting choice, but safely navigated around by these conscripts. Redbeard paying attention there. You get the 120mm mortar, which I've always loved, but I haven't used it for some time, and I've heard that actually it's kind of been nerfed into irrelevance, which I find hard to believe, but you know, I haven't tried it, so I'll take everyone's word for it on that one. So apparently a little flaccid right now is the 120mm mortar squad. Needs a bit of help in some way, possibly in an upcoming patch. Also has access to the Guards troopers, who we've seen running around the field for some time now. Got a squad of them. They are at the moment moving down the right flank, displacing these Storm Pioneers. And it also gives him crew repairs for his tanks, and finally marked vehicle. A very potent ability there. Really helps with dealing with the superior Axis armor, so that's a nice thing to have. Panzer II Loops is going to be the choice, coming out at the 12.5-minute mark, so not early by any means, and there is a Zis gun in position right now in mid, but not anywhere where it can help answer this. Let's just take a look as the Loops scares all of the forces on the left, and I like the camo on this Loops, by the way, just saying. So let's have a look here. So there we go. So in response to seeing the Lukes, the anti-tank grenade package has been selected. Redbeard, totally aware of the things that he can do to help counter this unit. The Ziska gun is in a great position. Going to miss the first round, and the Lukes needs to think about either diving or backing up. Looks like backing up is going to be the choice, but I don't like... Whoa! 2 misses from the Ziska gun. A very lucky Lukes there. Wow, if both of those would have hit, that Lukes would have been on like 10-20% health, maybe less, you know, like... So, pretty risky times there. Flamer squad going to come left here, these engineers, as the Axis forces focus their attention here. A light gun finally makes it onto the field, so that should help against these waves of infantry we see. A Molotov here, double bluff, going to throw it in front, and that's not actually going to catch any Volksgrenadiers, but Maxim is going to come to the rescue, and that should turn this fight. These Volks are probably going to have to fall back. Forward fallback point has still not been researched, and you know what, I know it doesn't seem like far, but I really like researching that, because it means that in a situation like that where your Volksgrenadiers get pinned down, you know, you're really losing very little time, because they just fall back to here, reinforce, come back into the fight, and then you can set them up to flank. I mean, obviously you wouldn't send them back into the same area where they got suppressed, but, you know, my point is you can cycle your squads a lot faster, and that makes a big difference. It makes them way more efficient. Lied getting some good hits on a cluster of infantry up here. No dominating hits. Now the PTRS AT tank rifle, oh sorry, anti-materiel rifle on those guards stands to do some good damage against the Lukes, and that could really vet up the guard squad. Oh dear, here comes an AT grenade. We're going to see the throw. Here's the conscript. There's the grenade. Biff, and there's the engine down. Now this is a Lukes that's in some jeopardy, but should still be fine unless the Zis gun has been pulled up to stalk it. It doesn't appear to have been. Now another AT grenade could smack it, and then the guards would be. The guards could actually make a play on it, but seems like an MG34 in a fantastic position here. Going to make life hell for these advancing Soviets, and that should be good enough. Oh, I say it should be good enough. He needs to focus fire on these guards. They're going to get close enough to throw a grenade. Are you paying attention, Zero? He is paying attention. The focus fire comes down onto the guards, but it's a little late. And they're making a dive for the Lig. And you've got to think that's a great choice. Now, the Lukes could just come forwards, or he just needs line of sight on these guys. So the flak HQ, here we go. Now, that should force the guards out. And I think, yep, they're too far away for a grenade, so the Lig is safe. A close one there. The MG34 is going to get a little bit burny. Ooh, that is close. I believe it should escape, though. And the Lukes has now been repaired and is raring to go. It's got half a level of veterancy, 5 kills only on that thing, so it's been pretty low impact so far compared to some Lukes that you do see sometimes. I mean, Lukes is a potent unit. It's like acid death for infantry in the vicinity, you know. Now, this is a Pak 43. How much does the Pak 43 cost? Oh, of course I have to look at the build option for the Storm Pioneers. It costs you 500 of your finest manpower and 13 of your tastiest unit cap. So, pretty expensive. But a very potent piece. Now, this, I think, is a really nice choice. Either Zero has correctly identified that Redbeard has chosen this commander, which has few counters to the Pak 43. It's not like you can just call in incendiary artillery or build an ML20 and flump the hell out of it. No, he's going to have to get a mortar squad and start doing it old school, and, you know, that's not a hard counter. That's something which the German player can, you know, he can poke out and try and get your mortar, or, you know. So, this is actually a pretty strong piece, given the circumstances, and also given the map. Look how open the centre of the map is. Now, there is a line of sight blocker right in its way, so he's going to be using attack ground a lot with this unit if he wants to score hits. But what he can do as soon as he gets a heavy tank, something like, I think a Panther can crush through this stuff, is just crush this out the way, and that'll make this Pak 43 a lot more potent. Maxim's still in a fantastic position in mid. It's been a long time since Axis forces have been able to make any inroads onto the right-hand side of the map. Oh! And a crushing demo pack used there from Redbeard. These Volksgrenadiers in jeopardy. They need to get back, and they do. S-Minefield here, placed in a good position, actually. I really like that from Zero. Really blocking this this avenue here. Oh, and a Rakettenwerfer. Again, this Rakettenwerfer has done no good the whole game. Su-76, of course, we saw it on screen earlier, but I didn't comment on it. This is the fuel spending at the moment for Redbeard, who's still floating 216 fuel, so he can pretty much do what he wants insofar as armour investments go. He has not built his Tier 4 building yet, so no danger of a T-34-85 anytime soon, but I think he would stand him in good stead to go for that. Now, the Su-76 is going to come through the minefield. It's going to take some damage from the Panzer HQ. The Pak 43 is going to turn, and you've got to think, unless it can get out of arc, that could be a danger. Okay, no, there's no line of sight here. Oh! Takes an attack round. Right, I think that was an attack round shot there from Zero. Thinking quickly and going for it, but unfortunately no luck. Now, this building is on low health. There's a 3-star unit of conscripts in that building that really need to relocate. If the building comes down, they will be instantly killed, and they are. A tragic loss for Redbeard, but there's a lot of fights going on. If you look at the minimap, it's hard even for me to cover, so imagine being one of these players. You're trying to micro all these squads. Light gun doing good damage, and a 3-star unit of conscripts here nearly destroyed, but they're going to get out of there. The Lig is in a, the Su-76 in a good position to get a counter barrage, and this location would be very nice. Risky, very risky actually. No, the Pak 43 would be too much actually, so you can't do that. But still maintaining map dominance, and the scoreline, which I haven't really commented on so far, reflects how the Soviet player has been dominant mostly through this game. Standing at the moment at 477 over 267, a 210 ticket lead there for Redbeard, and it's not a pressing concern right now for Zero. He does kind of control one of the victory points. Oh wow, the Su-76 in a fantastic position, getting great shots at long range into the Lukes. Oh, and a crucial miss there may enable the Lukes to survive, to limp away and get repaired by these Pioneers. Flamethrower guys here, engineers doing work on these Volks, but Zero does secure this victory point. And wow, what a tense battle line we have here. The Soviet position, I mean, this is a siege line here. Guards, MGs, This is a siege line which is preventing the Axis forces really from doing anything on the right flank. But you know what he doesn't have covered? He could go far right. If you sneak a couple of squads of Volks and a Storm Pioneer squad maybe, or even the Lukes, that would be the choice. Grab the Lukes, drive it out here, come up here, come in behind this building, you focus the Zis down first with the Lukes, that forces these guys to displace. They're going to do nothing against the Lukes. Yeah, these guys have got PTRS, that's not going to be enough. So a Lukes with like one squad of Volks or some Storm Pioneers could really actually undo this position on the right. You don't want to attack through here. He's been bashing his head against this route for ages. Zero, it doesn't work and we know it. Now here comes some kind of explosive fire. Now is that the Su-76 firing from a position? Is that this gun? There's some kind of explosives coming in. Ah, it's a 120mm mortar squad. And that is going to be a very good counter for the Pak-43. He's not really gotten a money hit yet, but it doesn't take many when you're talking shells with that kind of blast. So, yeah, deciding to call in the counter. Now, how much is a 120mm mortar? It's 340, so yeah, that's not too big of an investment. Up to 300 fuel now is Redbeard. I'd love to see him try and bring in some some T-34-85s. I think they'd be able to police the field quite nicely. Especially if you bring them in and the Pak-43 struggles to acquire them, then you can come in with the Su-76 and get a barrage onto it. Anyway, push out here. The Luke's going to be doing some more work on the left flank. Might get a kill on those engineers. They're down to one man and they're very low. There comes the fallback, but it may be too late. The Luke's is still firing at him, but it looks like he's safe for now. Luke's also has a marked vehicle has come down on it, so that is a Luke's which is a little more vulnerable right now. This Maxim still doing work, and here, this has to be the incendiary grenade. Oh, wow, no, it's not, because mine's in a fantastic position. It is the incendiary grenade and a fallback. That's going to deal with the Maxim. That's going to kill the squad. No more veterancy on that, even if it is remanned. And with that, that kind of opens up this right flank a little bit, which, I mean, I know I was saying that he could try this attack, but he wasn't going for it. So finally, he's now able, Zero, the forces of the Overcommand, able to use this approach here. So we'll see if they're able to do that, because he needs to make a move, and he needs to make a move soon. It would be enough to grab this, which is right on his doorstep. And we see the 120mm mortar. In the meantime, that was the final round there, just killing the Pak-43 crew. And he may keep bombarding the location to destroy the actual Pak-43 itself. We'll see if that's the choice from Redbeard. The fuel point here, notice how he's just leapfrogging to come back and get it. You know, this is the crucial one here, because the Overcommand forces, he's saving for a Panther right now. And he only needs like 30 more fuel, 33 more fuel to get that. So, you know, by taking down this point, you know, you're buying yourself a couple more minutes of Panther free play by holding that. Now the Maxim was captured, and I like this a lot. Zero gonna grab himself a Maxim, and the thing about a Maxim, it's a very different animal from an MG34. An MG34 is a defensive machine gun, wide arc, long setup and teardown time. And a Maxim, narrow arc, very quick to redeploy. This gives you an attacking option, and now he can push through this area and maybe turn the tables on this area, which has been dominated by Maxim play so far this game. So that would be quite interesting to see. Storm Pioneers here doing work against some 3-star conscripts. A live round going to increase the rate at which they're dying. They are going to fall back in the nick of time. Redbeard paying attention. I would say both players so far playing at a pretty high level, but Redbeard just slightly has the edge with his multitasking and his field presence, and has Zero pretty much under control for most of the game so far. But that is beginning to change. The advantages of Overcommand beginning to play in at this phase of the game. We're starting to see units get to higher veterancy. We're starting to see Ligs and even this Pak-43, which was useful, even though it is now destroyed. You know what? He could salvage that. I'd love to see some Volksgrenadiers just salvage this, get back some fuel there. But yeah, this stage of the game, the Soviet answers start looking a little less adequate. And I was going to say, here we go, Redbeard might want to start thinking about moving into Katushkas. And I think it would behoove him well to, it would be a good choice to go for Katushkas. The reason I say this is because the Axis bed of power is here. So if you take a decent fight in mid and a lot of infantry squads fall back, then you fire the Katushka here. I mean, that can be a GG maneuver right there, especially against Overcommand. So, pardon me, as I just take a sip on my water there. Yeah, that could be the play. Now these Storm Pioneers are playing with fire, and they need to get out. And they do. The Maxim, again, in a fantastic position. And this is what I mean about an attacking MG. He has been able to push through mid with it, and now he's mowing down guys here. Already up to 1-star, 1.5-star vet, as the Lukes policing the middle of the field. And at this stage in the game, conscripts, even though they're 3-star vet, they can feel quite frustrating to use. It just feels like you're reinforcing them, sending them out just to buy time for your units that do something. But even then, they fall so fast. You know, they're quite a fragile unit. Now, in the recent patch on September 17th, they did buff conscripts. I believe they changed their received accuracy. Now, there's a lot of combat going on the map, so I'm not going to try and find that in the patch notes just now, but I believe that conscripts at 3-star are a lot more durable than they were before. That seems like the MG34 is going to get burned out there, and that could be stolen by the Soviet forces. We'll see if that actually happens. These conscripts risking life and limb to salvage this position, but that is a risky proposition, as the next Ligue round could kill 2 of them, and it will. The Storm Pioneer is going to mop up the last one. He'll be lucky to get out. He doesn't yet. I was going to say, if he made it out of there, that would be something special. And again, another advantage over Command have at this phase in the game is their veterancy system allows them to go past 3 stars, so the Volk squad's now beginning to feel the rewards of that. And it looks like he's going to reman the MG34. He gets spanked by a round from this Su-76. He is dead. Oh, he's not dead! How are you alive? I think he should have died, but anyway. So yeah, getting out of there now. Kutishka is not the first choice. First choice is going to be the T-34-85. I don't mind this at all, because if I crack the TAC, you can see that Axis forces really now have kind of flip-reverted the situation. It is them who nearly have a siege line outside their Soviet base, and they certainly have field control, both fuel points. So a T-34-85 is a strong frontline presence, which you can fight behind. Good against infantry. It's good against tanks and things. Now, Zero, cleverly, has been saving his munitions. He hasn't been prophylactically buying Panzerschrecks for his Volk squads, so he's got quite the stash of munitions here. And should he wish, he can just shell out for 3 Panzerschrecks right now onto very vetted Volk squads, and that would actually be quite an effective answer for this T-34-85. Certainly reduce its effectiveness here. Now, he needs to get the Maxim out. I don't like leaving it, I don't like hanging it out to dry. You can hang it out to dry to buy for time, but I don't think it's a good idea. And the keen-eared listeners will have just heard the Panther ready for action. Oh, now this is the camo that I prefer on my Panthers. Good work, sir. You wouldn't believe the difference that camo makes, man. The Panthers with this camo, they're the best, I'm telling you. So anyway, whoops. Panther's going to come out. That's going to challenge the T-34-85 in mid. And that too is an effective counter. We've got 1 Shrek coming out, 2 Shreks. 2 Shreks have been purchased so far. Zisgun, Su-76, I'm sorry, in a great position. Going to get some damage onto that Panther. And a Panther at 1 star is a Panther that can die quicker than you might think. Panthers are a very durable, very resilient unit, but they only really become incredibly tricky to take down once they hit veterancy level 2. And until then, you can lose a Panther very underwhelmingly, very quickly, but he's playing it smart, playing the range game, playing for advantage, playing to the Panther's strengths, effectively, that's what I mean. So he's playing the game well with the Panther there, he's even repairing it in situ, so I like that too, not falling it all the way back. And these Volks here are going to try and make a play here, but unsuccessful. The Lukes is still alive, and at 2 star, the Lukes get its crucial rate of fire increase. So this unit now dealing a lot more damage, now vetting up a lot faster. So a Lukes that makes it to 2 star stands to make it to 3-4 star or better. You know, so that's an important thing. Now here we have the Su-76 and the T-34-85. The Panther is down to 60% health, and this is the most critical unit on the field right now. If the Panther dies, the Soviets are in with a real shot of dominance. They don't need much more dominance to push the Overcommand forces out of the game on score. So it's all about this Panther right now. The Su-76 has got the best gun for destroying it, and it is proving that. Now, I don't mind stalking a little bit there. I think that possibly it could have been a good idea just to push forward for an extra shot or 2 into the Panther. Certainly, these Storm Pioneers need to repair the Panther first. Meanwhile, on the far right flank, the Soviet forces have been able to resecure this fuel point, but some Volks Grenadiers are going to come out. That should displace these engineers, I would have thought. Seems improbable that those engineers are going to be able to stay here much longer, or if they do, they're going to die. Yeah, Soviet dominance dwindling right now. Now the Shreks, like I said, they could be an effective answer, and they're proving it here. Rakettenwerfer in a lovely position. Don't like how this T-34-85 is positioned. It's going to lose health fast in this position. It needs to get back. Trading for time, perhaps, but I still don't even like trading health on a tank for time in this position. I like just getting it out of there, putting it somewhere where your opponent's anti-tank resources are not. That's my preferred line of play there. Now, this Panther tank in a kind of risky position insofar as an URAR and an anti-tank grenade could break its engine, and then it could be stalked down by a Zisgun or the Su-76. So, like, not risk-free leaving it here. But repairing are the Storm Pioneers. They do have the repair tools, so their repair rate is very fast. They're also 3-star vet, which I believe is when they get the yeah, they repair objects faster. So 3-star vet with the repair tool, you're not going to really see a higher repair rate other than Anvil engineers for the Brits. So going to get that Panther back on the front quick as you like. Now I like deploying the Lukes onto the right flank. I think it should have been on the right flank possibly earlier, because there's basically just been infantry skirmishes out here, the kind of thing that a Lukes can just totally come in and dominate. And so I'd like to see it do so. You can even use this building here as a line of sight block and just position the Lukes in around about here if trouble comes. So anyway, MG34 going to get caught out in the open here, and you've got to imagine it's going to reposition possibly. The Panther's going to do some work, and of course it does have the MG42 pintle mount upgrade, so that's going to be That's going to be a useful thing. Now let's look at the supplies. At the moment it's 67 for the Soviet player against the 76 of the Overcommand player. Soviet player with decent resource float. He's got some manpower, he's got some fuel, but I imagine he kind of is torn at the moment. He wants to be buying infantry squads, but he also wants to be buying armor. And I would love him to get a Katushka. I think a Katushka is a pro choice right now. 360 manpower is steep, 85 fuel is cheap, and I think a Katushka could do some work on this field. Could do some work on this board. Panther tank in a decent position, gonna threaten the Su-76. I'd love to see the loops come back in and just start flanking round. I'd also like to see him, yeah, rotate to get your front armor on, man. I think Zero should rotate this tank, but that's, you know, that's just my opinion. You see, by leaving it unrotated, it's much easier to move it. But I think I like making a play for the Su-76, maybe even just trying to get around behind it with the Panther and making sure it's properly dead. Anyway, 5-star squad of Volks here, going to be pursuing this tank. He's got to be careful. If he goes much further forward, he's going to be in the arc of this machine gun. Looks like he's going to go for it anyway, though. Not sure I like the Panther making a dive here. I guess he'll get the Su-76, so maybe I do like it. Yep, fair enough. Now get it out. Back it up, back it up, back it up. There we go. Textbook tactics here with the Panther. And Redbeard finds himself right up against the wall here. So I'm honestly not sure. I mean, this T-3485 is wounded right down. Okay, now here comes the Katushka. And I like the Katushka, don't get me wrong, but it's different getting the Katushka now because he doesn't have an Su-76. And with just the T-3485 and a Zis gun to hold off the Panther, the Katushka becomes a lot more risky because a Panther can just take a dive and take it out. So I think he's pretty much forced to get another T-3485 next. And if he does so, and if he's able to survive until he has two of them, as in basically if he's able to keep this one alive until the second one comes out, I like Redbeard's position. I think he's definitely in with a shot of coming back. Because right now, you know, obviously the field is in Axis control. The difference in score now just 16 tickets, and will very shortly be even Stevens. And so Redbeard needs to make something happen sooner rather than later. He needs to repair that T-34 is what he really needs to do. Katushka's going to line up a shot. Here it comes. So let's have a look where these are going to fall. You've got to imagine it's going to be here. Yeah, on the machine guns. And getting some hits for good effect. And this is why I'd take a Katushka over a Stukas of Fürst any day. Hell, I'd take a Panzerwerfer over a Stukas of Fürst. It's just reliable. You know you're going to get like at least some good damage dealt. Whoa, what's this guy? He's like turbo crawling. I've never seen anyone crawl that fast. Please someone shoot and put this guy out of his misery. Oh, there we go. Now he's resumed regular speed crawling. No idea what was up with that. Kind of flopping around like a fish out of water. And anyway, Panzer IV going to join the Panther, and this is a really interesting choice. I think I like it. This is a Panzer IV which says, I know I'm on top, I just want another tank that is going to stress your AT forces even harder, and just basically enable me to have even more field presence, you know. So I like this Panzer IV. This is a Panzer IV which speaks to, which says that I'm in a strong position, pretty much. You wouldn't buy this Panzer IV if you didn't think you were pretty far ahead, I think. So anyway, yeah, it's a smart choice. I like it. And here we have a Maxim. It's going to push the Zis away. It may even actually be able to destroy the Zis. No, he's going to turn the Zis around very quickly. Redbeard there, reacting very quickly. T-3485 not sufficiently repaired to stay in the fight for longer than a single shot. And this Panther, if it's going to... Oh, dearie me, I think this could be the demise of this T-3485. And Redbeard has played very well. His infantry micro, his awareness, very good. But if I had a criticism, and you can tell because I'm saying that, I have a criticism. The criticism is his fuel spending seems to have been a little off. I mean, the entire, well, for large swathes of the game, he's been floating between 200 and 300 or even slightly more fuel. Still floating 260. He's on the ropes right now, and you've got to think if that fuel was in units, and I realise he can't spend it very easily because of his manpower levels, but if he'd have been able to spend that fuel more evenly earlier on in the game, I kind of just get the feeling he wouldn't be in this situation. I mean, he could have had 3 T-3485s or something instead of, I don't know, instead of some other units. It just seems to me like that would have been really good. Anyway, the Panzer IV goes down, and that was a slightly awkward loss for the Axis player. But anyway, gonna come in and get the Katushka, and this is what I mean, getting the Katushka when you don't have an Su-76 to keep the Panther at bay. I mean, look, this is just a risk the Panther can take. He's even gonna stay for a bit more damage. I mean, you know, this is cheeky play, And it's going to be very hard for Redbeard to come out from under this, I think. He's now down at 135, under 210, trailing by 75 points. And that is hard times for a Soviet player right now. It's not like he doesn't have the fuel, but it's the manpower. As is often the case when you play as Wehrmacht and Soviet forces, the two initial teams that were in the game, they do have manpower issues in the late game. Conscripts here trying to make a cheeky grab on this victory point, just getting a bit close to the Schwerpanzer HQ. They'll be able to get out of its range though and at least decap that point, so that's pretty good. But answering it by capturing this victory point on the right, 0 here. Gonna keep Redbeard under the clock. Finally, the T-3485 being repaired. Now let's take a look at what veterancy effects it gets. So, for veterancy rank 1, it gets the secure mode veterancy ability, and I'm just going to be honest here, I think that that's a blank, that's a nothing, so basically this unit gets nothing until veterancy 2. And I think Relic really need to look at Soviet tanks and the secure mode ability, because I just think it's very bad. I also think they need to look at RAM, because that's terrible. They should take that away and give us something else. So anyway, at veterancy level 2, main gun targeting and rate of fire, so that's good, it's more accurate and fires more frequently, and the gun on that thing is more than capable of hurting a Panther, so that's absolutely fine. The Panther's still only 1 star, but it'll be 2 star as soon as it hits any combat. So essentially a 2-star Panther here, very close to, all but 2-star. We'll see it get promoted here as soon as that MG flares up again, I think. No, nearly. Come on. Just needs a whisker more damage and it'll get promoted. And then as soon as it gets promoted, you'll see the armoured skirts come on. And that will be more difficult for the T-3485 to pierce. The durability buff that the Panther gets, there it is. So now we've got the armoured skirts on the sides here. Now that's a very difficult tank to destroy. And I think the answer for Redbeard, if he's able to, and he may not have the time and he may never have the manpower, but I think the answer has to be more T-3485s. The Luke's doing more work, up to 3-star, so in addition to its rate of fire and accuracy, it now has increased speed and line of sight, so that's pretty cool. Maxim getting into this building, that pretty much locks down the right flank. No Soviet units are going to be able to make it out of there. And 0 here, just showing a very competent late game. Just showing how to play cautiously. He's not making any super big dives. The only dive he's really taken is throwing the Panther into the enemy base, but I don't even think that there was any danger there, because he knew exactly what was in the base. He knew exactly what he was going in for. He was going in for the Katushka, and he stayed for a little more damage. This is going to be the end of the T-3485. Here comes the last shot. Move. That'll be down, and I imagine Redbeard will surrender now, as we have heavy artillery raining onto the Soviet base. 0 really flexing his muscles, and yeah, that's going to be the end of that one. So, a good game there, played on a straightforward game pretty much, on a straightforward map. Soviets dominating the early and early mid of the game, but able to reverse the situation was 0, just by gaining incremental advantage with smart unit choices and smart unit positioning and management. Able to, yeah, sorry, I've just noticed there's a little skull symbol here which tells you when they've left the game, so that's pretty cool. So now I do know who has left the game. So there was a couple of replays earlier where I was basically guessing. But anyway, yeah, back to the post-game analysis. Yeah, I think Redbeard put on a fantastic aggression, but I think his weakness, I think, was his fuel spending. I mean, he's died here with 231 fuel in the bank, and he had a high fuel float throughout the game. And I just think if he had transitioned to a more armor-heavy force earlier on in the game, he would have been stronger. Like the Overcommand forces would have had a much harder time reversing the situation. So I think basically his fuel spending there needed a look. Now I'm sure he has his reasons for having spent his manpower on other things, and you know, that's the kind of thing I'd love to actually talk to him about, because you know, it would be nice to get his perspective. And he's clearly a far more seasoned Soviet player than I am. I mean, I can play the side, but I you know, they're not my most played side. So anyway. Yeah, so yeah, a good battle there, straightforward brawl, which is why I like Langreskya, this map. You often do get very good straightforward brawls, and yeah, so yeah, I believe that is it for this broadcast. Thank you very much for watching, and this is Magpie 842 signing out.